Attention passionate Montreal, Canadiens fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the Atlantic Division and it could shake up the entire conference. We're talking about a direct impact on Montreal Canadiens' path to another Stanley Cup run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Montreal Canadiens fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Montreal Canadiens fans. Let's get to the news. Alright, Canadiens fans, get ready because today, we're diving deep into a potential game changer for our beloved team. You know, the Canadiens have been in a bit of a tricky spot lately, especially when it comes to their center depth. We've seen some struggles, some injuries, and the need to bolster that position has become more urgent than ever. And folks, there's some interesting speculation floating around that could really shake things up in the coming weeks. So let's unpack this carefully, because what's happening now might just be the beginning of a new chapter for the Canadiens. First off, it all starts with Kirby Dach. Everyone knows Dach is a key piece for the Canadiens' future, but his health status is a big question mark heading into training camp. If Dach isn't fully ready, or if he's sidelined for a significant period, the Canadiens will need to look elsewhere to fill that second-line center role. It's not just about plugging a hole, it's about finding someone who can contribute immediately and fit into the team's system without too much of a learning curve. And that's where things get interesting. So who's out there? Well, the team has a few options, and names like Mason McTavish, Nazem Kadri, and Marco Rossi are being tossed around as potential targets. All three are capable centers, and each brings something different to the table. Mason McTavish, for example, has been showing flashes of brilliance with his physicality and offensive upside, and at just 21 years old, he's a player with a lot of room to grow. Nazem Kadri, on the other hand, is a seasoned veteran with playoff experience, known for his leadership and clutch performances. Marco Rossi, the young Austrian talent, has been developing steadily and could be a dark horse candidate for the Canadiens to develop further. But here's the twist. According to some reports, the Canadiens might be eyeing a lower-cost option that could serve as a reclamation project and maybe even be more flexible in their cap space. That's where the name Casey Mittelstadt comes into play. Now, this isn't just some random rumor, heavy. Com recently proposed a trade scenario that could see Montreal acquire Mittelstadt from none other than their division rivals, the Boston Bruins. Yes, you heard that right, the Bruins. A team that's been a thorn in Montreal's side for years might actually be helping us out here. Let's break down this potential trade because it's fascinating. The Canadiens would get a 26-year-old center, Casey Mittelstadt, who was drafted 8th overall in 2017 by the Buffalo Sabres. Now, Mittelstadt's career so far has been a bit of a roller coaster. He's not a superstar, but he's shown flashes of skill and potential. Last season, he played 81 games split between the Bruins and the Colorado Avalanche, tallying 40 points. Not eye-popping, but certainly promising for a player who could be a cost-effective option for our second line. And the best part? His contract isn't hefty, which makes him a very attractive piece for a team like Montreal that's trying to rebuild its depth without overextending financially. The trade proposal suggests that Montreal would send Arbor Xhekaj in return. Now, Xhekaj is a big, physical left-handed defenseman, standing 6'4" and weighing 240 pounds. He's still relatively young at 24 and has been developing as a rugged, dependable defender. Last season, he played 70 games, scored 6 points, and racked up 118 penalty minutes, so he's not afraid to get physical. The interesting part here is the context behind Mittelstadt's current situation. Reports indicate that the Bruins aren't exactly sold on Mittelstadt's future with them. Over the weekend, some insiders like Nestor Quickston pointed out that Mittelstadt might not be part of Boston's long-term plans, especially considering their recent trade for Charlie Coyle and the subsequent moves. In fact, there's a feeling among some analysts that Mittelstadt was more of a secondary piece in that trade, with the Bruins primarily targeting prospects like Zellers and draft picks. The sense now is that Mittelstadt could be available for a relatively low price, because Boston might be willing to move him to clear cap space and make room for other prospects or trades. And that's where Montreal's opportunity comes in. If the price is right, why not take a shot on a player like Mittelstadt? Especially considering that he's only 26, has some offensive upside, and could serve as a temporary solution until our future centers like Michael Hage are ready to take on bigger roles. Now, Felix Forget from Dan's Les Coulisses. Com pointed out that Montreal already has some connections with Mittelstadt. Interestingly enough, Mittelstadt's brother, Luke, is part of the Canadiens organization. Imagine the storylines there, reuniting brothers in the same team, fostering chemistry, and perhaps giving a little extra motivation for both players. It's a narrative that fans love, and it could also help Mittelstadt settle in and perform at a higher level if he feels comfortable and familiar with the organization. But it's not just about Mittelstadt. Rumors are swirling about other players like Jonas Korpisalo and Pavel Zacha, who are also reportedly available for trades. However, Montreal seems quite happy with their goaltending situation, especially since recent reports suggest that they're satisfied with Jake Allen and Caden Primo. Zacha, on the other hand, might be more suited for a team looking for a forward with playoff experience, which Montreal isn't quite at yet. So, the focus remains on that center position, and Mittelstadt seems like the most viable and cost-efficient option at this moment. What makes all of this even more intriguing is how the league's trade market is shaping up. With Mittelstadt's perceived diminished value, the Canadiens could have a real shot at acquiring him at a bargain price. That's a rare opportunity in today's NHL, where teams are often asking for premium assets in trades. If Montreal can capitalize on this, it could be a sneaky smart move, especially if they're looking to strengthen their depth without sacrificing too much in future assets. Looking at the bigger picture, the Canadiens are in a bit of a transitional phase. They're still building, still trying to find that perfect blend of youth and experience, and trying to establish a core that can compete for the playoffs year after year. The addition of a player like Mittelstadt, even if just as a stopgap, could give them that extra punch in the middle, help develop some of their younger forwards, and keep the team competitive in a tough division. And speaking of divisions, the Atlantic is more competitive than ever. The Boston Bruins, Tampa Bay Lightning, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Florida Panthers, they're all loaded with talent and hungry for success. Montreal needs to be aggressive, smart, and ready to pounce on opportunities like this to stay relevant and push towards the postseason. Acquiring Mittelstadt could be a strategic move, one that allows the Canadiens to remain flexible and prepared for whatever the trade deadline throws their way. In conclusion, this scenario is really fascinating because it combines strategic team building with some smart, low-cost moves. It shows that Montreal is looking to stay competitive, even if they're still in the rebuilding process. The potential to reunite brothers, to add a player who could develop into more, and to do so without breaking the bank. This is the kind of move that could have ripple effects throughout the entire division. It's a story worth watching closely, especially as we get closer to the trade deadline. And now, Montreal Canadiens fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Do you believe Mittelstadt could be the missing piece in our lineup? Or do you think Montreal should hold out for a bigger name or different target? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the team. Remember, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for all the latest Montreal Canadiens news. We're in this together, and the best is yet to come.